Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 84. I am Brendan, and today we're going to be talking about the UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus Rodriguez, as well as the rest of the fights on that card. Obviously, that comes with the Fight Night thing. What's next for Holloway? What's next for Rodriguez? Little bit, I'm probably going to go on a rant about the featherweight division in the UFC, the female featherweight division. But yeah, before we get started, please like and subscribe. If you like the UFC, if you like what I'm doing, if you like talking about the UFC or listening to people talk about the UFC, comment down below, subscribe, recommend this to your friends. If anybody else likes the UFC, likes MMA, I release a video every Sunday talking about the preceding events. And if there isn't an event, we try and something else to talk about. Like I said, last week, I think maybe next week we might start, or might be 2 weeks from now. But we will be doing the Karate Kid spinoff, Cobra Kai. We'll be reviewing Season 1 and Season 2 in preparation for the Season 3 release in December. And then obviously we'll review that one as well. All right, with all that out of the way, please, I appreciate it if you do all those things. All right, let's talk about the fights. So the main event was Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. So Max Holloway, the uncrowned champ, I guess you could say. Not currently the belt holder, losing twice to Volkanovski. First time, agreed. Second time, it was close enough to where I think it warranted a rematch. But the problem is when you lose twice to somebody, it's hard to get a third fight. So this fight, let's throw some notes over here, shall we? Let's pull up some stats too. All right, so in the first round, Yair was doing some good work. All right, I'm not going to take anything away from Yair, but I will tell you that despite him doing good work, right? Despite him doing good work, he still was outstruck in the first round by Max. Right now, when you're watching it, you might not think that he's being outstruck because he's landing the bigger, flashier strikes, but Max was landing a lot of good ones of his own. I wouldn't be mad if you gave the round to Yair. In fact, I think I did when I was watching it live, but then I went back and watched it. Dude, there's a good argument that Yair lost that first round as well. So you can see here Saul D'Amato, who he's famous for being a shitty ref or a shitty judge, gave 4 of the 5 rounds to Max. I guess I could kind of see it. I probably, like I said, that first round, I still probably would give it to Yair, even though on the second viewing I say it's a lot closer than I initially thought during my first watch through. But it was close. Max seemed to have some issues trying to find a clean way in. Yair was doing a really good job of varying his attack and doing enough, landing big, hard shots. And, every time Max wanted to come in, he was punishing him. Now, Max would still walk through it and still, go get shots of his own, but he would take some damage on the way in. And there was no clean way in for him. By the way, after this fight, Max became the first UFC fighter to ever land more than 3,000 significant strikes. So that's pretty damn cool. Max started investing a lot into the body. He started in the first round, but he really went to the well second, third, and fourth round, and you could tell Yair was slowing down. That being said, in the 5th round, Yair managed to pick it back up and just go for broke, throwing wild shit, rolling thunders, all kinds of stuff. So it was an interesting fight, fun to watch. There were moments where you could think like, oh, Max is going to lose this, but like I said, on second viewing, knowing the outcome, Max never really looked like he was in danger. There was one time where he was kind of in a guillotine, but other than that, Yair landed some good shots, and he landed a lot of heavy shots. Max never really looked ruffled, rocked, out on his feet, none of that stuff. It wasn't as close as I thought it was, to being over or him being in danger as I thought when I first watched it. Because I actually did watch these live because they were on relatively early in the day. Max was doing this weird hop, jump up, side kick to the front, to the lead knee of Yair. I think it is weird. I think he was doing that to find a way in. It was working. It landed plenty of times. It was interesting. It was just interesting to see. And then people are giving Max shit for going to the grappling. Let's look at the statistics, shall we? Yair attempted 5 takedowns of his own. He only landed 1 of them. That's the problem. Max landed 3 of his 5 attempts, and he was able to control him on the ground, doing damage. Not really. I mean, he did go for a few submissions. Like, one of them was a standing high elbow guillotine. That was pretty interesting. He didn't get that. Yair spun out of it. He had to go to the ground to get out of it, but he did get out of it. He did have like an arm triangle choke for a little bit. Max did, and he never really pursued it. He had the back for a while. It's just, all of this being said, is like, it was while you're watching it live, you're like, man, that's an even fight. But if you look at the total strikes and the significant strikes, 230 to 159 in favor of Max Holloway, and 251 to 186, again, in favor of Max Holloway. Both guys, and then like also percentages, like I've said this before, it doesn't mean everything, but if you do land more and you're throwing more, like, it's hard to argue against that, and he was throwing more, and he landed 56% of his significant strikes. Like I said, look, if you look at this number here, he really invested into the body. Max Holloway landing 66 of 83 body shots. Like, he did. And those, or a lot of those, were punches. Whereas Yair's body shots were mostly mostly kicks. Leg punches. Punching with your leg, not punching into his leg. I'm so stupid. But yeah, like I said, go ahead and look at if you don't believe me, or you don't want to look at the numbers that I have on the screen right now, or you're watching this on a really small device. I know sometimes that can be kind of hard to read. Round by round, Yair threw more in the first round, but landed less. Okay, so by 1, right? Like I said, it's close. 38 to 37 in favor of Max Holloway. Second round, 58 to 42 in favor of Max Holloway. And then 38 to 20 in favor of Max Holloway. 43 to 24 in favor of Max. And in the final round, which I thought was Yair's, like, one of his best rounds, maybe he lost that one too. But I thought he did enough. Like, he landed some really big shots, and he was able to push forward pretty well in that 5th round. Even right here, man, like 53 to 36, again, in favor of Max Holloway. So not a single round did Yair outland Max. Yeah. I mean, what else is there to say? We can go into the rankings in a second here. But first of all, like, just to recap this fight, Max Holloway did not have to take this fight. Yair Rodriguez is ranked. Does he deserve the ranking that he has? Probably not, but he has one, right? And he's ranked number 3, right? Because he has a win over Cheng Zhang. So does Yair belong up there? Probably not. But before this weekend, he was ranked number 3. Max Holloway was obviously the number 1 contender. Max took this fight because he wanted to stay busy. And Max took this fight because he probably knew he could win. And he knows he's the best in the division. And he knows that in order to get that fight against Volkanovski, he has to keep his name in the headlines. He has to stay active. So I think he did all of those things really well. And because of this, Yair's stock went way up. They were very respectful with each other afterwards. Yair's foot was messed up. Max has a huge cut, or a huge gash above his right eye, and a busted up lip. Like, they were pretty banged up, both of them. Pretty punishing fight, interesting fight. I would say it was competitive. Like, I don't think any one round was a complete blowout. Maybe the second or third, maybe the third round was the closest thing to a blowout for Max. With a lot of that control time. Other than that, like, the takeaway for me is Max didn't have to take this fight. Max still, in my opinion, probably the best featherweight in the world. And I know Bisping after the fight was like, unfortunately that's not the case. And Volkanovski is the best in the world. Sure, technically speaking, that's accurate. But when we know how the judges work, and we know that they don't always get the decisions right. And a lot of people felt that Holloway did win that rematch, and it was close enough to where it warranted, like, hey, an immediate rematch after that. Let's see who actually won this thing. But Volkanovski didn't want to fight him because it didn't make sense. So what's next for Max? Fighting for the title. That's it. Don't care. Fighting for the title. He should be fighting Volkanovski next. I want to see that again. And if Volkanovski managed to eke out another win or have a dominant performance and win, we never need to have that fight again. We just don't, right? It could happen again if Max keeps clearing out the division. But if Max is able to get the win, then you could have a fourth fight with Volkanovski trying to come back and get the win. I still think Max is one of the best featherweights of all time. I really do. It's unfortunate that stylistically he does not match up with Volkanovski in a way where he's dominant against him, because and Volkanovski's also fantastic. He's might be one of the best. Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, I'd like to see that fight one more time just to be sure. So here are the rankings. What does Yair Rodriguez do after this? I don't think his stock takes a hit at all. I don't think he should drop below the Korean Zombie for a lot of reasons, but him versus Brian Ortega makes sense. I think that's a fun fight stylistically. That's interesting. It would be fun to see Brian either get pieced up on the feet or get Yair down and see if he can dominate him on the ground. I think it would be a fun fight to watch. They both have really good cardio. They both hit relatively hard. Make it happen. Make it happen, Captain. I think it'd be fun. Let's see here. Let's talk about the co-main event. So there was a lot of good fights, but I think the prelims overall were better than the main card. All right, so I mean, I could pull the stats up for this one, but it doesn't really matter. Marcos Hygerio de Lima versus Ben Rothwell. De Lima landed some really big shots and rocked Ben multiple times against the fence. Ben's legs gave out underneath him a couple times, and one time it looked bad, but then he immediately shot for a takedown, and there's some controversy here. I don't need to look at those stats anymore. There is some controversy here because he was going for a takedown, and Herb Dean is like, well, nope, sorry, I touched him, so that's the fight. The fight is over. Not a good stoppage. Not a good decision. I think if he had stopped it earlier, I would have said, like, that was stupid. Ben Rothwell was still with it, and if he had let it go another 10 seconds, Ben Rothwell, might have gotten clean knocked out, or he might have been grappling. You don't know, especially at heavyweight. De Lima could be totally gassed out, and Ben Rothwell knocks him out within the first round. So I thought that was a stupid stoppage. I thought it was a bad stoppage. There is nothing good about it. I don't want to talk about this fight anymore. On to the next one. Okay, here's a warning. So if you don't want to hear me rant about the female featherweight division, because I'm not going to talk about this fight very much, probably skip ahead. I'll try to keep it under 5 minutes. So skip ahead to like the 18, 19-minute mark, okay? And hopefully I'll be done by then. I don't care about this fight. I don't care about it at all. Felicia Spencer looks like shit. Leah Letson also looks like shit. There are no featherweights in the UFC. There just aren't anymore. All right, we had one at one point with Cyborg, and there were some other kind of featherweight. Oh, we had, again, Megan Anderson. She's a true featherweight. She's big. She's tall. I don't think she can make bantamweight. There are no featherweights in the UFC anymore. They're all just bloated bantamweights. Felicia Spencer is bloated, right? She has a lot of fat on her that she could probably cut off and make down to 135. Just what it is. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just those are facts, okay? She's a little chunky. She probably cut down to 135 and be a bantamweight. This division needs to go away. When is the last time you can remember watching a fun, competitive featherweight fight to watch? Like an actual fun, competitive one that you were watching, right? That didn't involve bantamweights. I'll give you a second to think. I can't think of one. I mean, the Cyborg ones were fun to watch because she's insane and like she'd go knock people out, and she's a true featherweight. But she pretty much fought bantamweights too. It's just like this kind of performance here. I mean, you want to look at stats, we can do that, I guess. She just put her up against the fence and was outlanding her constantly the entire fight, right? So look at the number of significant strikes, 56 to 78. You're like, that's not that many. Look at the number of total strikes. 227 pity pat. Okay, not pity pat, because 56 of those were significant. So over 160 strikes were thrown by Felicia Spencer in pity pat fashion. God, like, this was not a fun fight to watch. This is not a fun division to watch. There's no exciting prospects. Amanda Nunes only has the belt because she beat Cyborg, who this division was made for. There's no point in having this division around anymore. Nobody gives a shit. There's no rankings. Do you want to see the featherweight rankings? I do this. You want me to do this every fucking week? Look at this shit. There's nobody underneath her. Why? Because nobody gives a shit about the female featherweight division. It doesn't exist. It's not a real division. Okay, one fighter does not make a division, and that's what it is. It's Amanda Nunes when she feels like not cutting weight and going in for a fight. It allows her to stay active while other people are fighting out in the bantamweight division because nobody can get past Holly Holm, Irene Aldana, or Jermaine Durandamy. Right? We've got all these awesome fighters, but that keep beating everybody else, but no one wants them to fight Amanda Nunes anymore. So she goes up to featherweight, fights some random person who's won 2 fights for some reason, and then she beats her and then comes back down to bantamweight. Get rid of the fucking featherweight division. Like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody's watching this to watch female featherweights. Bantamweights, sometimes, right? If Holly Holm's fighting against somebody who's competitive, like against Durandamy was fun. Aldana was fun. You know, when she fought Miesha Tate back in the day, that was fun. You know, there's lots of fun fights. Okay? But look at the rankings, man. Like, even in bantamweight. I got 1 more minute to bitch about this. Look at the bantamweight rankings. Aspen Ladd is ranked number 5, and we've seen how she performs. Yana Kunitskaya, get out of here. Caitlin Vieira, she's fighting this weekend. We'll see how she stacks up against Miesha Tate. Raquel Pennington, up and down fighter at best. Sarah McMahon, can't put shit together to save her life. Macy Chiasson, get out of here. Lena Landsberg, no. Pani Kianzad, absolutely not. Julia Avila, who did she fight last? Do you remember? Do you remember her awesome? Nobody gives a shit. Right? Outside the top 5, the only person with recognizable, there's 2 people, well, maybe 3 recognizable names. Miesha Tate, Raquel Pennington, and Sarah McMahon. That's it. This is stupid. Stop doing this. Stop putting on featherweight fights in the hopes that we're going to... Oh, wait, hold on. It's cutting way over then. Like, stop doing this in the hopes that, you know, you're going to find a star. Get the talent built up and then bring them into the UFC. It doesn't exist. It's not the sweet spot for the female frame. Okay? The sweet spot for the female frame is 115 and 125. That's where we have our best fights. 135, we have had some competitive ones in the past, but generally speaking, the level at 135 is not to where it should be. Right? We have some insanely skilled fighters in Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes, Jermaine Durandamy, Irene Aldana's pretty good. Juliana Pena's not bad. She's fighting for the title next. Aspen Ladd's horseshit. Kunitskaya is not good. Caitlin Vieira is all right. She's a decent grappler. Miesha Tate, I love her to death, but she is not a good striker, and she's an okay grappler at best. Like, you're falling off the face of the earth with some of these fighters outside of the top 5. And I don't mean, like, whatever. All right, I'm done. Welcome back if you skip to this. I'm sorry. There's a little bit of holdover. Let's move on. Fight sucked. Both of those fighters suck. They don't belong in the UFC. If anybody else in the UFC put on a performance like that, men or women, in like the competitive divisions, they would be like, ugh, not at the level yet, not ready. And yet they're in the top fucking 10. Ugh. All right. Let's go to the next fight, shall we? Chaos Williams versus Miguel Baeza. Baeza was beating up his leg throughout the fight. Chaos outlanding him, though. Chaos was outlanding him in the first, landing some big shots in the second round. More of the same, but Chaos Chaos started having problems with his left leg and he couldn't move as well. And then Baeza just stood in the pocket and wanted to get punched, so he got punched and fell down, and then the fight was stopped early. Baeza was not given a chance to defend himself. He saw a big shot landed, and then that was it. And then he immediately protests, he has a wherewithal to be like, what the hell? And he's not grabbing the leg. He wasn't grabbing the ref's legs. It's one of those things where it drives me nuts when these referees see a big shot and then immediately jump in. You have to assess the situation. Yes, they might take one more shot, but you can be close and ready to jump in there, okay? Up until Herb stopped that fight at heavyweight, I thought he was doing a pretty good job. He was ready to stop it at any moment. The hesitation wasn't great, and the fact that he stopped it when he did was it was terrible timing. He should have let it play out. After Ben Rothwell dips down for that takedown, if I was Ben Rothwell, I would protest that. I would definitely go and try to contest that decision because the referee came in and touched them and then walked away. It's unfortunate for Herb Dean because I still think he's a good ref. In this case, he fucked up. All right, Song Yadong versus Julio Arce. Decent fight. First round, even 1-for-1 striking battle. Kind of, right? So they had these exchanges where they would throw, 2 or 3 shots, and Julio Arce would miss two or three and land 1, and then Yadong would land, 2. Okay. So you can see the numbers here, 17 of 52 and 5 of 46. Not a lot of significant strikes here. 17 to 5 sounds like a blowout because he landed 12 more strikes, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not that many. In the second round, it was actually getting a little bit closer. Arce was landing some good shots. Song kept throwing this this. It wasn't a looping left hook, but it was this forceful, tight left hook over the top, constantly trying to catch him. He never did, by the way. But Song landed his big right hand and follows up against the fence to put him out and getting the TKO/KO victory. So, good win for Song Yadong. I don't know. I think he was ranked 15 before this weekend. I don't know where you're going to put him. He could fight Cody Stamann, Rafael Sunsao. That's a good step up. Frankie Edgar, he could take on. I don't want to see that fight. Have him fight Cheeto. They already fought, and Song got the disputed win. All right, Joel Alvarez versus Thiago Moises. First round, knockout by these giant elbows. So Alvarez mixing it up on the feet, pressing forward pretty much the entire time. Alvarez rocks him and then starts throwing some nasty elbows when Moises was against the fence and just throwing him right through it was nuts how hard he was throwing him. Landing some big shots, and then Moises goes out. And then this means another one of Islam Makhachev's wins no longer holds any water. It just doesn't. This guy was ranked 15 before this weekend. There's no reason he should be ranked after this weekend, and now that brings a grand total of 1 win of ranked opponents for current ranked opponents for Islam Makhachev. So, what do you think? Am I way off base here, thinking that he's been pushed forward way too fast? Not because he's not skilled, but based off the level of competition that he's faced. And is this not mirroring Khabib's trajectory to the top, where he got to avoid a lot of the contenders, got lucky with the 1 win that shouldn't have been a win, and then, fought some late replacement opponents who are not at the level that he should have been, like Horcher. And then he defended, we'll see if Islam ever gets the belt, but if Islam gets to the belt and then defends it twice and then retires, you know what I mean? We have another person saying, oh, now he's the greatest of all time. I don't think so. Anyway, it doesn't look good when your previous opponents start getting blown out by everybody. We'll see if he can recover after that, but I don't know. Andrea Lee versus Cynthia Calvillo. I was never high on Calvillo. She got the rub from Dana White, and she was really pushed in the division to be, I don't know, something. She was supposed to be, I guess, the next big thing at flyweight. I never saw it. I didn't think she was that great. She had rudimentary striking, and she just seemed to be like stronger, I guess, than everybody. Well, here's what happened. She just got outstruck in the first 2 rounds, and then let's see what happened. Oh yeah, so midway through the second round, Calvillo got hurt to the body. Actually, no, it was in the first 10 seconds. Lee landed a left hook to the body, and the announcers didn't notice it until she got hit again to the body, but you could see her arm drop down, and she winced. She was actually defending that. Lee said she couldn't breathe in her corner after round two, which was weird, and she also might have broke her right hand, also interesting. But didn't matter because Cynthia quit on the stool. I'm never a fan of that. I don't think Bisping let her off the hook, saying, "Oh, that's a right decision for this," because she's just getting output. That's I'm not a fan of fighters taking more damage than they should, and I'm not a fan of corners not throwing in the towel. I'm not a fan of this stuff. But when a fighter quits the way she, was she getting beaten? Yeah, but she was still in there. Dude, she landed 22 strikes in the second round. Yeah, she was getting beat, but it wasn't where she did nothing and was getting nothing done and it was getting blown out. The rounds weren't exactly close, but she wasn't getting dominated, right? She wasn't getting destroyed out there and taking a ton of extra damage that she didn't need to. She just didn't want to go back out there. Not a good look. This means, unless something comes back that says something was broken, and then I could be totally off base here, but unless something comes back, from her medical and this says oh no, she was really hurt and she couldn't continue. This doesn't look good. It really doesn't. When you quit on the stool, that's not good. There's plenty of ways to quit, and you see people do it all the time out there. They take a shot, they go down to their hands and knees, and then they tap out or they don't fight back. That's a way people quit. They do it all the time. But quitting on the stool and not even giving yourself a chance, I don't like it. Sean Woodson fighting Colin Anglin. Sean Woodson getting the TKO finish in the first. It was pretty interesting. Woodson is just so freaking tall and skinny, man. It's weird. Anglin was trying with forward pressure, but just kept getting reversed, and it just wasn't working out for him. He just couldn't manage distance properly. Woodson hits him, so here's this weird circumstance and sequences that led to the finish. Woodson hits Anglin in the nuts, and the ref comes in, but he says, "No, I'm good." And then within the next 30 seconds, he gets put away with shots to the body. If you've ever been hit in the nuts, you know how this works. It might, you get hit in the nuts, even if it's just a light tap, it's not instant. The shock of getting hit hurts, but it's the pain afterwards in your stomach that you feel. That's the bad one. And he kept getting hit in the body. It's his fault for saying, it's his fault. It's on him. He should have said, "Hold on, no, I need a break. I got hit in the nuts." So it's up, it's up to you to do that stuff. But I don't really think, and Woodson looked like he probably was going to end up winning that. It wasn't a terrible miscarriage of justice or anything like that. It was just unfortunate to see a guy get hit in the nuts and then finish to the body within 60 seconds. So not fun. Courtney Casey, staying positive. She was 9-9 going into this against Liana Jojua. Jojua famous for posting pretty pictures, and Courtney Casey famous for being a 50-50 fighter who can't fight, can't stay off her back, and she's just too ready to accept those positions. This was very frustrating. If you were a Liana fan watching this fight, I can't imagine you weren't yelling the whole time, because in the end of the first, second, and third rounds, she ended up on top. And every time she did, she was able to do what she wanted because Casey just accepts that position. Yeah, she throws strikes from her back, and she's trying to be aggressive back there. But, dude, Casey was like having a lot of success with 1s and 2s and front kicks, right? Really busting up Jojua's nose. Jojua has terrible striking. Jojua got the takedown with 30 seconds left in the first. Like, I think she had it with like 40 seconds left in the second, and then with like 15 or 20 seconds left in the third. And Casey also had a broken hand in round 1, and they told her, like, hey, maybe don't throw it. And she's like, fuck it, I'll throw it anyway. Who cares? It's already hurt. Those are her exact words. Fuck it. So, always like when a fighter's like that. Think that was fun. Courtney Casey, like, has good striking. It's just, and she's not a bad grappler. It's the fact that she's comfortable playing off her back too much. And she just loses rounds like that. So against grapplers, she's still going to have problems. She's currently 10-9. She stayed positive. She's not going into the negative. She'll probably keep her job in the UFC. Javier Alves versus Mark Diakasey. Diakasey got caught and wobbled by a straight and then flying knee into a guillotine. And a tap. So it went by pretty fast, a minute and 48 seconds into the first round. Also, Alves tried to pick up Bisping in the post-fight interview, and Bisping's like, get off me, ha 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 ha. Kind of looked like he was joking. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe, like, you don't want to touch a guy's suit. I don't know. Darwin Zhang versus Kennedy Juchuku. That's how it's pronounced, I think. I was never high on this Kennedy cat. Some other people were really hyped up after his last fight where he got dominated and then managed to get a finish. I think with the way Zhang kind of dispatched him and just disposed of him, it was a slow start for for a minute and 20 seconds. Like, nothing really happened. They were trading shots back and forth for the early going, but Zhang was finding his jab and just putting in more work. And then Zhang got the finish at like a minute and 57. Just about 2 minutes into the fight. And he was throwing these big elbows through Kennedy's guard, right? So he was throwing them right into the forearm, and they were still rocking him, doing enough damage, which was weird to see. But it's one of those things where, like, this fighter who has low-key fighter has this hype around him because he had like a comeback fight, and you hear all these people talking him up. Like, well, you got to show me something. Then you can't just say this stuff. That's it actually for the fights. We went through those pretty quick. We can go check out maybe the ones for next week, because I think Misha's up next week, right? I think Misha Tate's fighting next week. Yep, Misha Tate versus Ketlin Vieira. Hard to know what's going to happen there. Sean Brady, who is still undefeated, versus Michael Chiesa. That's a good co-main event. Hani Yaya versus Kang Kyung-ho. Weird. Joanne Calderwood versus Talia Santos. Adrian Yanez. That guy's crazy. Versus Davey Grant. Well, we'll see how that turns out. Grant's probably going to try and strike and get knocked out. Actually, he might get a knockout. That dude hits hard for some reason. Pat Sabatini, Rafi Garcia, Tucker Lent, Loma Lukbume versus Lupita Godinez. Terrence McKinney. Watch out for that kid against Fares Ziam. Oh, Ziam's the guy who doesn't land anything. He's like one of the most inactive, frustrating fighters to watch. And Terrence McKinney is like this phenom, so he's probably going to end up running through him. Sam Hughes, Luana Pena. Nope, that's pretty much it. Yep. Short one today. Short one this week. Not a lot of fights I wanted to spend a lot of time breaking down. And I know most people aren't, tuning in to hear about the prelims on a fight night. So, if if you guys can think of anything I missed, please put it in the comments down below. If you agree with what I'm saying, if you think Max Holloway is a turd and should never get a title fight ever again, I don't know who you are or how you exist as a person, but please comment down below. Let me know why you think that. If you like the UFC, like I said at the beginning, please tune in every week. I post every Sunday. Tell your friends about it. Be like, hey, this guy talks about the UFC all the time. Listen to his voice and his docile tones. Ugh, gross. I hate myself. Yeah, I'll talk about it next week, and like I said, I'll start watching the first season of Cobra Kai. So spoilers, the spoilers coming ahead for sure. Please, if you haven't watched that series, watch season 1, season 2. They are so good. The episodes are. Cobra Kai is amazing. If you like the Karate Kid, if you didn't like the Karate Kid, even my dad, it's like my dad and I don't watch the same shows at all. Not even close, and even he likes that show. So it spans quite a bit of demographics. So appreciate all y'all. I really do. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for tuning in again, and I will see y'all next week. Love you.